I'd like to call the meeting to order. This Charter Review Committee, Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Ms. Evans, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Member Smith?
Present.
Member Wilson?
Present.
Member Poole?
Here.
Member Rokier?
Here.
Member Rashadat?
Here.
Member Palmer?
Here.
Member Riker?
Here.
Member Fugile?
Here.
Vice Chair Eisen?
Here. Now that we have a quorum, I'd like to move forward. Since this is a sanctioned city meeting, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to move to approval of the minutes. Has everyone reviewed the meeting minutes from our July 17th Charter Review Committee? If so, are there any questions or modifications? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All righty, I'd like to move to public participation. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please remember to say your name and address. You will see a yellow light indicating there's 1 minute remaining. When the red light appears, your time is complete, and the next citizen may approach the dais. Good evening.
Good evening. Leslie Sachs, 816 East 8th Avenue, New Smyrna Beach. I just have a concern, and I know it's not been brought up yet, except by me at public participation, is how is this going to be presented on the ballot? Is it going to be every change broken down into questions like the Florida amendments are? Or is it going to be a yes-no like our previous charter review was, which does not allow the voter to know exactly what they're voting for? So I hope that it would be broken down by question like other cities did. And I did bring printouts of this from the Supervisor of Elections website showing that, Edgewater, Deltona, and everything else. And speaking of which, I think it was Deltona, they also wanted term limits. And I think we should also add that, just because every other board in New Smyrna has term limits, you know, the citizen boards. Other cities have term limits for their commission and mayors, and it shouldn't be a coronation. It should be, you know, 2 or 3 terms or whatever you decide, and put a limit to it. Senators, presidents, everyone has a term limit, except New Smyrna Beach. If they're kept voting in, you can be a commissioner for 20 years. So that's all. Thank you. And thank you for all that you have done throughout this. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening. Robbie Gibson Minor, 2839 South Oceano Court, New Smyrna Beach. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for volunteering your time, your expertise, and serving in this most important role in our beautiful city of New Smyrna Beach. So thank you very much. I'm here tonight in support of the consideration of the arts and culture on the charter. Many of you have mentioned throughout this process all the wonderful things that are in New Smyrna Beach, as well as participants have spoken. I started a list and it's long. I don't know that I need to go through that all with you because you know what they are, but it's amazing what the arts and culture, you know, who else has 2 history museums, all of the art galleries, the Artists Workshop, the Atlantic Center for the Arts, Images, which ranks number 16 or 18, depending on what you read, in juried art shows in the country. We're a special place. We're beaches we're ecosystems, and we are the arts and history. The reasons that I think that it's important to include it in the charter is that it is a significant enhancement to our ongoing quality of life and the preservation of that for the future. It also provides an enhanced ability for our art and culture community to obtain grants and private funding from foundations, etc., and that's an important thing for their survival. Then there's the economic impact. The latest data I could find was from fiscal year 2022. And for Volusia County, the nonprofit arts and cultural organizations resulted in 945 jobs, over 31 million in personal income for residents, over 1.2 million in city and county tax revenue, and over 800,000 attendees spending an average of $37.54 per day. And that's just the data for the nonprofits. You know, many of our galleries in other areas are for profit. According to the Florida State Department of State, the arts are a vitally important economic industry, generating revenue, creating jobs, and developing communities. Dr. Ron Chung, Department of Economics at Florida State, arts and culture have helped cities boost property values, reduce crime, who knew, and stabilize public budgets. In addition, it creates jobs and opportunities in the 21st century for businesses that we want to come in. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robbie.
Good evening, Jess Romero, 708 South Cooper Street. I've come before you many times. I brought up a lot of suggestions and recommendations, and I've yet to hear one being discussed by any of you here on the dais here. Term limits, the section 703, which talks about the charter review. I know it was said that it was going to put in there by 2036, but I recommended doing a calendar year because, as you recall, the first meeting, you discussed this for over an hour, whether or not they shall be, whatever the words were, and you discussed it, but you need to put it in that calendar year. So there's no questions about it. You don't do it in 25, and then special elections. That's not even in the charter of special elections, but somehow it got in there. The charter has 9 articles, 64 sub-articles. Every sub-article has at least 2 paragraphs. You only discussed a third of that. Were you told to discuss only those, or you're allowed to think for yourself and say, you know what? I got to go to this here. I got to find out what's going on here and go on to every line. I thought it was going to happen was you're going to come in here, demo me, and you're going to go through every part of the charter. No, it has not happened that way. It's been skipped around. This is what you're going to do. You didn't go over to Article 7, which is citizen participation, the boards. What can we do? What can residents do? How can we have referendums? How does this happen? You have to put it on a ballot. That's not discussed at all. That's important to the citizens to know this is your charter, by the way. It's not my charter, it's our charter. It's for all of us. So I think you should go back, and I would recommend, and I highly appreciate if you go back at the comments that I made, that Cindy has made, Lou, Randy, wants to come up here, every day we come up here, every time we come up here and talk to you, and go back what we recommended, and discuss those things to make us feel like, hey, you know what, we matter here. Because what happens is, a lot of people in town that I talk to, try to get into the meetings, they say, you know what, I've been there. I moved here 30 years ago. I used to go to the meetings there. They don't do a damn thing. They don't care. It's their comments. I get it. I come to a lot of meetings. Not a lot gets done. All right, so I understand their frustrations, but we got to keep going. We're not going to stop. So I appreciate what you're doing. It's not easy. I know taking a lot of comments from me especially, it's not easy. I understand that. But you put on this for a purpose for you to get through this here. And I appreciate what you do. I do. It may not be easy, but you know what? Life is not easy at times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Happy 4th of July. Cindy Cezak, 512 Yukon. Your review last time focused a lot on 6.01. There's two things that didn't come up that I'd hope you consider figuring out the right language for. But our waterways mean a lot to us. They mean a lot to the tourist trade as well. But there's no mention of protecting the runoff caused by fertilizers and other chemicals. And that seems like an easy add that would encourage, or not harm at least, the oystermen and fishermen and other boaters. So I also think it's a small weakness that the language around tree canopy does not encourage restoration. So there's many lots where all the trees were cut down. So unless you have something that encourages the restoration, and I know the government overreach crowd is very much opposed and vocal about the tree thing coming up. Unless there's protection in the charter, we could all end up with something that is very unpleasant and ugly. Also, compensation tied to the county, 2.11. I'm concerned that it is wide open in what it says, not considering that the county apparently is lobbying to have their board, it's called the Board of Commission, their salary is tied to the legislature. So because of how it's worded right now, that automatic uptick, if they get that, dramatically changes compensation in New Smyrna. Plus, there had been talk about a living wage. I don't know where that came from, and I've heard no justification for it. I know there was a vague reference to perhaps that's why Mayor Owen didn't run. There were probably other reasons Mayor Owen didn't run, and most of you know what they are. So you got to be careful about what's being written there. And also, if the mayor is just another commissioner, why would the mayor get paid more money than other commissioners? So there's some fallacies to some of the assumptions that were made. So votes that were taken not based in fact, and I'm very sensitive to that, and I encourage you when you're looking at the final language that goes out, that you consider that. Also, 2.06 forfeiture, I really think, while there's nothing bad going on in the city, the addition of the word any felony or bringing dishonor to the elected offices is harmless language that could only protect the town, not hurt it, and not hurt the public officials as well. Vacancies, 2.08, should be by a vote of 4, not a simple majority, because someone could sit in an open seat without having running for a very long time. And then the guidance in 3.07, there should be some guidance there that if zones have to be withdrawn, how to handle the effect of that on a sitting commissioner and when in fact the redrawn zones take effect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Joe Dluback, 3587 Casalta Circle, New Smyrna Beach, Venetian Bay. There have been, I'd like to repeat a lot what people have said already, that there are comments been provided here, I being one of those, to provide suggestions on what's happening without any particular reaction. I would suggest that from the lessons learned from Venetian Bay, there needs to be an explicit understanding of what the roles and responsibilities are from all of the charter members, from the commissions, to the commissioners, to the manager, to the mayor. We need to understand from our perspective who is really responsible for the things that are going on in the city. I, in fact, question whether, in fact, the form of government we have is sufficient to support what this community is now going towards. And lastly, keep in mind that our focus is the next 10 years when we do a charter. We know where the city is going in the next 10 years, and we ought to specifically identify that. And really lastly, there should be a requirement once the charter is finished that it will be followed by a review of both the comp plan and the LDR to be consistent with that charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the floor? Okay, thank you very much for your ideas, suggestions, and recommendations. It is appreciated, and this committee has heard those and acknowledged those. Thank you. I would like to state that, as in previous meetings, we will run them respectively in accordance to Robert's rule. Our facilitator, Susan Boyle, will bring up each item, have a motion for discussion, a second discussion. Everyone will be heard, and we'll see where that goes. Susan, can you please bring us up to the most current date of any outstanding items first, and then to our current item?
Okay, so.
Can we put that up on the screen too? Your sheet?
My sheet, yeah, can you bring up the table, the chart? So the first thing, just to recognize in your, you do have all the proposed charter revisions to date that Carrie, the city attorney, has provided, so that is in the packet. They are redlined, so they're either in red letters or they are lined out in red. So you can see what the language is each way.
Sure.
Okay, so that is in your packet. The next item in the packet is my table or chart, whatever you'd like to call it. It's kind of a work continually in progress, so we morph it each time a little bit, but it goes through everything that the committee, the Charter Review Committee, has looked at, each section, whether you took action on it or you did not take action on it, and the action that you took and what the vote was. So all of that is currently up to date. There are a few tweaks I'm still going to make to it. And obviously, whatever transpires tonight, you do have an item on the agenda for discussion.
Right.
That will get added to this document. So anybody have any questions as it relates to this document? I think it's a great opportunity to see what you've done all in one place. Very simple words, not the whole big long.
Sure. It's evolved
spiel.
as we've gone along, so it's looking good.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think we've made a lot of progress on this document, and I really like the inclusion of the reasons for not making proposed changes, so you really get to see both sides of the story. I think there's a couple of areas on here that I'd like to see if we can do some editing on, and I don't know, Susan, if you want to do that as a group, or if that's something you want to do,
No,
individually.
I think you. I know which ones you're looking for a little bit more detail on it. I can add that. I'll add it for the next version of this
Right,
document.
and should we have any kind of a discussion on those changes to make sure that everybody agrees with some of those changes? And I think it would address a lot of the questions that have come up from the public as well. Because people keep asking about term limits, and term limits are something that we discussed on the dais. We decided, the committee decided not to move forward to a vote on it, but I really think that that should be reflected in this document, that term limits were discussed and there wasn't an interest in proceeding. So,
We
Are the
can-
changes you're asking for, are they changing the recommendation or changing the language of the recommendation?
not even changing anything to do with the recommendation, changing the language for the cons, for the reasons that were presented not
That's
to.
what I'm saying.
I don't think it completely
So it's
reflects
really-
the discussion that we had.
Okay.
And I think that's important because as this paper gets presented to the commission in whichever form that it's presented, the commission needs to see both sides of the story, right? If what was discussed and why we want to make the change and why we're not making the change, or, at least to see that term limits was discussed, right? Which is an item that keeps coming up from the public all the time, but the committee decided not to proceed with that. I think that should be reflected in the living document.
I have no problem adding that if that's the pleasure of the committee.
I think that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
What other items, Dan?
I'd just like to throw something out on this. In light of that, it just occurred to me, when the commission gets your report, you may be doing it in the report, but it's not here, so that the view of the committee is reflected. Actually, should there be another column where there was a change recommended and approved, should the vote be included?
The vote is included in each one of these
Yeah,
that you
there's
all
votes-
voted on.
There's votes on each one.
Each one tells you what the vote was. It does not say who voted how, it just says the vote was 8-3, 10 to 1, 1 to 10.
At the status.
I missed that then, when I was looking at the chart.
If you look in the very last column where it says status, it tells you the vote on each item.
Okay, thank you, I got it now. My error, I apologize.
Good thought, see, we were thinking the same way, though. It's all there.
So a couple of the items that I thought I'd like to, have a discussion on. On the second page, Article 3 on the elections, on the reason for not making the proposed change. So I don't know if you can flip to page 2 on this document so that everybody can see it. So the next page. There you go. So Article 3 on the elections, it says that there's no real, and this is changing, the primary situation. So if somebody had 50% plus 1 in the primary, it wouldn't go to the general election. And under reasons for not pursuing, it says no real downsides, as it would save money, for the city, and the winner would be determined in the primary. I think the real reason that we talked about not doing that was because it would be excluding, the people that would vote in the general election. A much higher turnout in the general election than you see in the primaries. So, you'd still be putting the power of that change into a smaller subset of the electorate. So I'd ask for some sort of a revision to be made to that part.
Okay.
I have
And-
one.
Yes, yes,
And
ma'am.
the other comment that I had was on the special election, which is on page 7. So this is where we had voted to have a special election. And, I think what the wording here is just showing the opposite of the reason for proceeding. And I think the big thing that we talked about was the fact that in a special election, you get really low voter turnout, right? 10% in a special election. So a very small subset of the electorate would be making the decision on whether these charter reviews went through versus having it in a normal election cycle where you'd have a lot more participation.
Well, let me ask you a question on that. When's the last time we had a special election? I mean, people are throwing out a lot of information saying there's a lower turnout, but when's the next time we had one?
I don't know.
Well, then, how do we know what the turnout is? I mean, I'm not arguing your position, I'm just saying it sounds like to me it's an assumption. And the other side of the question is, I think on this particular one, not the special election, but back on the 50+1, a lot of people don't show up for the primary because there isn't a 50+1. And if you want to make an argument for 50+1 and you need to do it on a general because there was a lower election, then we need to go back and look at the elections where the 50+1 was there.
Right, and I'm not debating the decision that the committee has already made. I'm not proposing that we have another discussion or, another vote on that. I'd just like to see both sides of the story told here in terms of what was discussed on the dais.
Okay, and I don't have a problem with that being discussed on your section. I'm not arguing that point, but I think the counter needs to be over on the other side also.
It does. We had a discussion that the committee felt that a special election would be an improvement because that's just our city. It's not the very bottom of a presidential election all the way down, and they would have really an opportunity to really look at the changes and why. That's not on here either.
Right,
So,
and the discussion there was that some people felt that the super voter would be voting in the special election, and that was a good thing. And I think a lot of people didn't think it was a good thing to exclude a large part of the electorate. So that's why I just want to make sure that we're showing both sides of the story, right? Because you're turning this charter review decision over to the super voters, not to the general electorate. So
we're actually
I
turning it
just-
over to the committee whether to act or not to act.
Correct.
And we're going to probably workshop this possibly too, and they can dive into as much as the reasons,
Yep,
pros
correct.
and cons.
And that's why I'm hoping that it goes to a workshop, and I think that's part of what I'd like to hear tonight from the city attorney in terms of where do we go from here? Because if this is the last meeting, where does this go? Does it come to a workshop? How does this get presented to the commission? Are the commissioners allowed to really make their decisions at what they want? Because not all the commissioners are going to agree with the compensation package that we have. Right? Somebody mentioned living wage. I think living wage should be reflected in that one section here in terms of the discussion that took place. Right? I think however that report is to the commissioners, and this is the best document that we have so far to really capture the discussion that needs to be brought forth.
Well, we can put it for a vote if we want to enhance the reasons for pros and cons, which we have now.
Right.
That's what you're asking for.
Yeah, what I'm asking is that we edit the reasons, pros and cons that are listed here to reflect the discussion that actually took place on the
I
dais.
think that's why we have the minutes.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we have one commissioner here that attends every one. I'm sure the others are watching us online, so
Sure.
they're going to be able to get the flavor of it.
Right.
I don't know that you can write down every
Every single
single
thing.
thing.
Oh, no, exactly. And that's why I've only highlighted 2 or 3 here where I don't think we're capturing the discussion that really took place. And yes, you can go back to the minutes, as I have. Yes, we can go back and review the videos, as I have as well. And I just want to make sure that we're capturing the true discussion that took place.
Well, in fact, I don't know how many of us, I don't remember, I think Judy, you had left the podium by then, or the dais rather, but I was at the meeting. I think Khaled was there when the last charter review was discussed. And virtually the commissioners didn't listen to anything anybody said in that meeting.
Right.
They had their own agenda as to what they wanted to vote. There was numerous people who spoke on the one issue that we just discussed about having, and which one of the citizens commented on, about having the individual items available for vote. The commission, led by the then mayor, was tunnel vision. They were going to do it in one paragraph and move it through. So I don't know how much changing the wording, things around. I don't have a problem adding your comments, but I wouldn't want to get bogged down in that because I think the commissioners are going to go where they want to go.
I agree, and that's why I think it's so important for this document to really reflect what we talked about. They might ignore it, but I don't think this document right now shows on those 2 items what we really discussed. And then I think your comment, Palmer, is very important. Is to, where do we go from here? Is this going to be one revised charter that gets passed on to the electorate, or is this going to be? I think we talked about 4 separate ballot measures because there's really 4 big item tickets that are being, presented here.
I'm 100% in agreement with the citizen. It needs to be individually voted on. That's what was wrong with the last time through.
So somehow we need to make sure that this document and what we present or what gets presented to the commission, because I understand we might not be presenting anything. This might just be a report that gets presented to the commission. I'd like to make sure that that reflects the feelings of this team that, hey, this should be 4 separate individual ballot measures versus one single document.
Did you send
May
the
I jump
revised
in?
comments to?
I did. I sent my revised comments to Susan.
I just wanted to put the one ballot question versus separate ballot questions, possibly put that to bed for you all.
Please.
This is a very different charter review process than the original one, where they did a complete overhaul. And so that was the question of there would have been who knows how many number of questions. And so they had ultimately decided to do one question. Right now, we're looking at 5, possibly 6 questions. I'm recommending that they be addressed as single ballot questions. This isn't the type of thing we could lump into one question because they're so, they're very different items. So I don't think I would spend a lot of time worrying about a single ballot question. I'm going to draft it as 5 separate ordinances or 6, depending on where you guys end up today. So I think you guys can move on from that point.
Yeah.
I think that thank you for sharing that. That's very, very helpful.
And I think that's what everybody's looking for. But if your comments were given to Susan, can you share them with us? His comments?
Dan's comments?
Would you like to wordsmith it a little bit before you do that, or?
Yeah,
it's
I
up to you?
haven't, he shared his thoughts with me. I haven't wordsmithed anything into this. The goal of this was not to capture every single minute detail. It was to be a snapshot of kind of the big items, just a sentence or 2, just so we knew. You do have the minutes. Ms. Riker is correct. The
vote
minutes
record,
have
yeah.
more detail in it. This was just so you could have one document, so you could look at everything quickly to kind of get an idea and a flavor for what took place and why. So, it's up to 7. I was hoping to keep it to like 2 or 3 pages.
No, this is good. You've done a great job, and it's organized by those 4, main topics, and it kind of shows the pros and cons, like we
Yeah,
wanted to in the beginning.
I just don't want to have, a paragraph or reasons for because the commission and the mayor are going to decide from this document next steps. So I don't want to again, I agree. They probably, a lot of them have watched this meeting.
Sure.
I know I've watched every single one afterwards.
Sure.
Just to make sure what I thought we did a good job, or if we left something on the table. So I don't know. We can put it for a motion if you want to add additional verbiage, because if you add verbiage, they're going to look at it again. So I think tonight was going to be the last night. So we've got one more agenda item to do. So,
And that particular item will get added to this, even though you all aren't going to meet again, but it will get added
Yeah.
to this, so.
okay.
You know, just I want to make one comment, because I was there when the commission reviewed the last charter, and I kind of disagree with Palmer that the commission did not listen. I think they did listen, but, you know, it's a short meeting. But remember, they get the agenda, you know, 2 weeks prior to the meeting. So I'm sure that they had a lot of thoughts about that. And I'm sure with this one, they'll have the same thing. Now, whether they'll have a workshop or whether they'll have as just a regular city commission meeting, that's something for them to decide.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, as I recall, it was a workshop first and then a meeting? I can't remember, but I remember it was in the Brannan Center, and there was like about 150 people there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just public participation, there was a lot of people speaking in response. And the other thing, and Carrie can maybe correct me if I'm wrong on this, the last time it was in a general election, right, when that thing went on? That was a general election.
Correct.
Yeah, so part of the reason for that clamping all together was you're now at the end of a probably 3-page ballot with state amendments and everything else. They would have been there all day long. And that's one of the reasons why the special election is better. But I think that's what happened then.
So, but I guarantee you, they are interested in this one, in the commission. I know they're interested in this one, so I'm sure that they will put a lot of time into it, so.
So Susan,
Yes, sir.
based on wordsmithing, providing it goes along what we've discussed up until this point, until tonight, I would be okay with if there is a line or two added
Okay.
for clarification, but any more than that, I don't think that's really needed.
Okay, that's fine. I think that continues in. I do think Ms. Riker had a question,
Yes,
though?
you did.
I had just one thing on your page where it talks about the compensation. The vote was incorrect. And if you go back to the minutes from
Which page are you on? And
the compensation piece.
That's the
The
first
compensation.
page, Article 2, compensation.
Oh, down there,
First page, Article
2.11?
Yep.
It was a 6-1 vote, and you can check that in the minutes that were
Okay.
written from May 20th.
Page 1.
So you just might want to correct that.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
and a big part of the discussion that night was on having a living wage, and that's not reflected in the reasons for the proposed modification.
There was a lot more discussed that night.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was a lot
I
discussed.
would not want to say living wage on this document when there was so much more that was brought up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of
In
course.
terms of how all the others, I'm not going to get going on it
Right.
again, but
that's-
and that citizen was right. There is going to be a Volusia County adjustment to
Yep.
their charter. And if
Right.
they make the adjustment to their charter that changes their compensation to match the compensation of the other county people, there's going to be a big jump.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be like 60% jump for our commission members.
Yeah, so anyway, there is a lot of discussion there.
And if you notice here, when you look at page 2, there's a very, very generic sentence there in the reasons, because it could have gone in any column. You know, what I say is there were pro and con discussion on the provision of a living wage to the commissioners. That's what it was. There were the pros and cons. You all discussed that quite a bit that evening. But I didn't go through what all the pros and cons were on each side. That would have taken a whole sheet of paper.
And Susan, I just saw
So
that. That's very
so-
accurately written. That's good.
Right, so
Thank
that, I mean, I tried to get those into very concise sentences,
Yeah.
that it's just, there was a lot of discussion on both sides.
And one more thing, I know that, if you don't mind, one more thing, the citizen brought up, she's very well spoken, by the way, this thing about the fertilizer and chemical runoff and the tree canopy restoration. We spent a lot of time on the tree canopy, at least I did, because that's like my deal. But those are ordinance issues. So if somehow that information that she brought up could be transferred to the city commission, you know, that maybe they need if there isn't an ordinance, maybe they need to address it. If there is one, maybe they need to revise it. I'm not sure, because I don't know. I'm not in that.
Judy, I can add to that too. The person who did speak was concerned about the runoff into the river. Section 6.01B of the charter does include enhanced stormwater quality standards that sufficiently protect all receiving water bodies. So that is addressed in the charter.
And that gives them, the commission, then the ability to go to ordinance,
Correct.
which is what we're supposed to be doing here. Give them the ability to go to ordinance with what we put into the charter. Okay, that's fine.
Carrie, were you going to say something?
Well, I've kind of now, a few different trains going. So Senate Bill 180 was passed and signed by the governor. And what that does is for a 3-year period until October 1, 2027, the city is prohibited from adopting more restrictive or burdensome land development regulations or comprehensive plan amendments. Another section in that legislation says when we're affected by a hurricane and designated a federal disaster area, it's going to be an additional 1-year block on the city trying to advance things. So one of the things I was going to bring up, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, so I'll back up after that and we'll get to it when we get to it, but the arts and culture, the land development and zoning, these ones that seem to suggest we have to do certain things, we may not always be able to do that if it's in contradiction to state law. And so I'll go further into that when we get to the arts and culture section, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. But correct, the trees, the fertilizer, all over, those are land development regulations. You don't put that in the charter.
Okay. All right. Yes, Sandra?
I would, since we've been talking about various sections of the code or the charter, I'd just like to indicate that on section 211 about compensation, take a look at the word "some pay to the mayor," some pay. Some is a very challenging word because some could also include like their insurance benefits and their cost, traveling benefits. So I think base salary might be a better term to use in that particular section or something similar to that, so we know exactly what we're dealing with rather than just a sum of various types of benefits plus salary.
I don't see the word
Thank you.
"some" anywhere. I don't see the word "some." I see, oh, yeah, I do over here. Okay.
Second. Some paid to the New Smyrna Beach mayor, and it's also actually in the charter.
I think I just copied the motion that was in the minutes, but we can change "some" to compensation. I mean,
Whatever
it's
is-
still, that could be more
I
encompassing.
think it's more appropriate.
That's on the status.
Yeah, because we're looking at their salary, we're not looking at their overall compensation.
Oh, okay.
So base salary maybe.
Well, that's why the word "some" was used in the motion, because it's just the base salary. It's not the
But that doesn't
total
say base salary.
compensation.
That just says some, which some means it could be their insurance plus their salary plus
On page 2.
their traveling benefits. Some means an accumulation of totaling things together. So we're talking about the base salary, let's stick to
So maybe
salary.
compensation.
Yeah,
Compensation, I think, would probably
yeah, because
make
further.
it clear.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
thank you.
certainly.
I'm done with that topic.
And can we also put in there that we had discussion about having a cost of, having their increases based on the cost of living similar to the staff? Because I brought that up and I thought that's pertinent. I think that's a big deal that we decided not to go with the cost of living increase.
But how does that fit with where you ended up? I mean, that kind
Yeah,
of,
we're a percentage of Volusia County.
yeah.
Yeah, it was one of our discussion items, though, was whether the increases should be based on the cost of living or if it's just based on what somebody else somewhere else makes.
Yes, so right now it's recommending to tie it to Volusia County
That's correct.
at 75%. And then that would change every year as Volusia
Or not
County
change
changes.
if Volusia County does it.
Right, so if
Right.
Volusia County gets a cost of living raise, then our commission would as well. If it doesn't, then our commission would not.
Right.
Yeah, we try to do that neatly as possible and make it not something that the commission has to discuss.
Yep.
So,
And again, our discussion here is just to make sure that these notes reflect what the full discussion was, not to rehash the decision.
Correct. Can we move on with Olds and Carter yet?
yes, we can. All right.
But Mike, before we, because during the public participation, it was repeated from several of them, that they made the suggestions, they made the recommendations, and we did not discuss it. And we've discussed just about every item that they have actually brought up. I don't know if there's item that we have not discussed.
Yeah,
Like the term limits.
Right, and that's why I think this document's so important, to be able to reflect what we did talk about, because we have talked about most of the things that were brought up by the, in public comments.
But I would like, if there is any item that was brought up that it wasn't discussed, I would like to discuss it, since this is probably our last meeting. So I'm not aware of any item that we have not.
We just have one remaining item, is my understanding from our last
But
meeting.
you're saying, are there any items that were brought up by the public that we have not addressed?
Yeah.
All right, so, and
I was going to say, I would suggest you continue on with the agenda as it is and discuss the item that is currently agended and then come back, because Carrie has several items to bring up, and then
Okay.
we can bring back if there's something we've
And
missed.
then, as we've had this open discussion right now, before we get into that next agenda item, we talked about where do we go, what happens next, right? So how does this get presented to the commission? What's the report look like? Is there a workshop? Can Carrie share any information that she has in terms of where we go from here, or do we wait and see? I mean, that's a question that I've had. I know you've had it, Mike.
I think Carrie can speak on that after we get over our next agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So,
I'll make some changes to this, and obviously, whatever gets decided tonight will be added to this document.
Okay.
And it will be a part of my report to the elected body.
okay,
So this will be included in that report.
thank you. So now we're down to our last item.
Yes, sir. Madam Clerk, can you pull that 6.05 section up on the screen? There you go, thank you. Okay, see, so this is the last item. I think Mr. Farley was asked to draft some language, and this is what he has drafted, and I'm going to let you explain what you've drafted.
Okay. Well, first of all, before I start about talking about any of this stuff, is that, I don't think any of the things that we have approved or that we've discussed are intended to create a situation that is more restrictive on the city. I think that what we're doing here is we're putting together a document that is a statement for the future of the city, but does not necessarily make any kind of specific comments about new laws, restrictions, or anything that may or may not be included in the recent decision by the governor. So I think that we can move forward without even worrying about that. So, at least at this point. So, arts and culture, when we've gone through this section on sustainability. We've talked about it at length. We've gone through several different sections that we all felt were important to include, and there was obviously a missing part. In New Smyrna Beach, we have a thriving art and culture community. We have, we have an art district. We have a bunch of different nonprofit and for-profit art groups. When people drive into the city, they see murals on the wall. I mean, it's a very important part of New Smyrna Beach, and it certainly should be part of this document. So all the 6.05 section suggests is that the city will, in order to preserve and enhance the quality of life for citizens and visitors, shall strengthen its commitment to arts, cultural, and music community by providing resources and assistance for community arts and music events, providing assistance in the form of accessing grant opportunities or other funding sources to facilitate the continued development of its arts and music community and provide resources wherever possible to preserve the cultural history of the city. It was intentionally written to be something that was not meant to be restrictive or to suggest that we need to make any new laws or changes. Here, was the idea behind this. However, it certainly does round out and should be included in the sustainability section. I think that's pretty clear. You know, the inclusion of culture and art in a city charter isn't just a matter of aesthetics, of the city being pretty or something. It's an organizational choice, a strategic choice that can transform communities. The approach aligns with broader objectives of sustainability, community engagement, economic vitality. Cities that recognize the value of culture and incorporate such measures in their charters will ultimately create more vibrant, dynamic, and cohesive urban environments for all residents. All we're looking at here is something that is part of the charter, that is a part of the sustainability section, that will be part of the Constitution for the city, will be part of what we look forward to for the future of New Smyrna Beach. Most of the things that are written in here we're already doing. The city is already involved in this. Therefore, it should be also included in the charter. Anybody have any comments?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, so arts include art, music, poetry, dance, theater, writing. So I think it's restrictive to just say art and music. So I would suggest we use art and cultural endeavors, which kind of covers everything and just
Okay.
doesn't relate to music.
You know, I went through this exhaustively, looking at different definitions of arts and culture and tried to make it as simple as possible, where I considered arts as being every type of art, everything from performance art to sculpture. I mean, everything. And you really could even include music in that if you wanted to. So I thought that that was just a general way of saying that. Judy, I'm not sure how to do it better.
I think art and cultural endeavors.
Art-
Strengthen its commitment to art and cultural endeavors.
Okay.
And that way it covers everything. Because cultural endeavors is a huge umbrella.
Arts and cultural endeavors, okay.
And when you say art and music, you're like, well, to me, I'm thinking just, what about theater? What about poetry? You know, like the Hub does a lot with poetry. So that's my first comment. My second comment is when you say shall strengthen its commitment, I think we should use the word continue, because the city already has a strong support of arts. I mean, we close down the streets for the images, and I don't think there was a bigger support than giving money through the CRA to finance the Hub. And that was huge. So, the city does a lot. So I think just saying continue its commitment instead of strengthen, because strengthen means they have to do something more, and I think they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's fine. I was kind of hoping that you guys would hone this in a little bit better. Anybody else?
No, I got one more thing.
Oh, sorry, Judy.
Don't know if you want to, and I talked to some other folks on this, about making a distinction with public and nonprofit.
Yeah, I
Because-
thought about that too, yeah.
Like the public where we paint, and you had mentioned where we paint the murals on the
Right.
yeah, and then nonprofits, and that's important because we do help the nonprofits, but people that are in it for their own gain, I'm not sure you want to have included in this.
Yeah. There was a letter that was recently written that was signed by the Secretary of State, Republican Secretary of State, talking about the economic impact of nonprofit art and cultural organizations.
It's huge. That person was correct.
It's unbelievable how much.
Yeah,
I had
it's-
no idea until I started researching this.
It's huge.
It is.
So in number B, back to the music again, just say of its arts community and just take the music piece out, because arts would encompass everything.
Okay.
That's all I have, but nice job and great idea.
Thank you.
I also had a question about A, when it just said arts and music. So I do like the cultural endeavors, kind of just a slight change.
yeah, that should be changed there as well. Okay?
You know, and Farley, it's really a whole lot easier to edit than it is to create, so good job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, again, it's a charter.
Yeah.
We're not creating anything new here other than making a statement for the city. You guys realize that if we can get this through and if the city approves it, you know, we'll be setting ourselves apart completely. This will be you talk about unique character. I mean, the city of New Smyrna Beach will have a charter that includes some really, really cool stuff that other charters don't. And I know there's lots of discussion about what should be in a charter and not. And I thought we had a great discussion on that. And there may be some stuff that that is a little too restrictive. But at that point, considering this is very non-restrictive, it's very general, and I think it fits very well in the sustainability section.
Can I ask one clarifying question? Ms. Riker, you mentioned the public nonprofit aspect. Were you intending for that to be in subsection A, providing resources and assistance for public and nonprofit? Like, tell me where to tie that in, if that was what you were saying.
Maybe it doesn't need to be in there at all, city attorney. Maybe it was.
Oh, I just wanted to understand the where it was, and I can wordsmith it, but I want to make sure I understand your intent.
My intent was that we would support, the city would support the public art, our own art, painting turtles or something on Flagler Avenue and the murals and whatnot. And then the nonprofit, which we support the Hub and Jane's and Atlantic Center for the Arts and that, not supporting someone who has a private
Music venue.
Yes,
Let
exactly.
me ask you a
no,
question.
that was certainly not intended in this at all.
Exactly, so I don't even know
Yeah.
if we need to distinguish that, if that's going too
I know,
far,
I
Farley,
see.
it might be.
I get it. But then again, the city maybe helping to sponsor music events is something that could help down the road. You know, I keep thinking about the Deering Park community that's going to be built. They're going to have an amphitheater there. The city wants to maybe at some point be involved with sponsoring music events there. So that still falls under arts, though, so that's fine.
Yeah.
We can just leave it as arts, right?
I'm not sure we need to even put in public and private, because the word arts covers everything.
It does.
That's the way I read it when I read the thing. I didn't see anything, and same thing like Judy was saying. I mean, at the Hub on one side of the street, and the volunteers who painted the fishes on the overpass. So I mean, it's all art, and it's all cultural history, and the cultural history could be a city agency, and it could be supporting a foundation of some kind for looking at the history of New Smyrna.
Correct.
That's fine.
Even when you consider the surfing history of New Smyrna, I mean, that's something that is a big part of our city. It's a real vibe here, and it's a big part of New Smyrna. That's what Section C was supposed to entail.
I don't have a problem either way. I'm just saying I don't know that we need it in here. Because I'm assuming it's
I don't want to
public-private.
confuse anything. I was only bringing it up maybe for a discussion piece, but I think it's fine the way you put it, Farley. Just leave art.
Okay.
Any other discussion, suggestions, recommendations?
I'll make a motion to.
Oh, wait, before you make a motion, I did want to comment on this.
Okay.
So one of the things that, when you have this language, you kind of look at the implications, and I had some concerns with the historic language as it existed, but Palmer's revisions removed that, it looked like it tied the hands of the commission to only adopt stricter ordinances, whereas, sometimes state law changes or that's not the will of the commission. So what Palmer revised in the historic preservation took away my legal concerns. And this particular one where it says, provide, when it talks about assistance, and it says shall continue by providing assistance. So if someone comes up for the Brandon Center and they want a waiver, and it's not a nonprofit, private entity, but it's a divisive event. Maybe it's a subject that the city really doesn't want to touch. Technically, under that language, we're required to provide assistance. So I would recommend loosening this language a bit to make it more consistent with the way the historic preservation is, so that you're not actually requiring the commission to approve every single thing that's arts or cultural that comes before them. So, I
Well, you
don't
know,
know.
Carrie, they're already doing it, right? So maybe continuing to
Right, but what if
provide
there's budget
resources and
const-
assistance? Could
So
we say
yes,
that?
they're doing it,
Right.
but when you get into the practical application of it, like
Mhm.
fee waivers at the Brandon Center has been a very hot issue for the commission over the last several years.
Right, yeah.
So that's like a fine application of the general language that technically might require the commission to waive it for anyone that's arts or cultural based on the way it's written right now.
Okay, so that's not appropriate then?
So I think there's a way to loosen it so that it still gets the intent of like, hey, cultural and arts are very important to the city and let's keep going, you know, the way that we did with the historic preservation. But I wanted you all to have that discussion first before I threw that out there.
Okay.
But we don't want to tie our hands to the city being able to operate.
So if you guys want to continue your discussion, I'll try to tweak the providing that language to make sure it's open enough that the commission clearly supports the arts and cultural events, but they're not required to approve anything that comes before them that's requesting financial assistance from the city.
I understand exactly where you're coming from on that, Carrie, and that would be great to try to soften that up a little bit, sure.
So I think you all could go ahead and approve the concept with the city attorney tweaking the language to have it directed the way she just explained it.
I agree, and I think we had started of a motion, Palmer.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with B, though, where it's just asking for grant opportunities. That grant opportunity
Yeah, that's the one she has a
topic-
problem with.
Oh, that's the one you have a
Yeah,
problem with?
it's the
Well, no, the form of
providing assistance
accessing-
wording, right?
Yeah, so the way Palmer had it written is assisting them to find grant opportunities or things like that where you're supporting them, but you're not actually committing to give them the grant funding.
Right.
Okay.
Like we did in historic.
Okay.
So a lot of this is fine. A lot of the language as is going to be fine. It's just a few words that will need to be changed to make it like we're assisting and we're guiding and we're prioritizing it, but we're not required to fund everything that comes before the commission.
Do we want to come up with final wording here and then approve it? Is that something we should do right now? mean,
I
we're
can
here.
work on that while you guys continue to discuss, and then
Yeah,
I'll read
let's-
it.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so I guess we don't make a motion right now.
Carrie's got it right. Is it the choice of the committee to have 6.05? And if so, based on the draft that we're looking at tonight, is it fair to say that we're comfortable in making a motion based on enhancements by the city attorney to ensure that
I'll make that motion. I'll make the motion to approve with the changes we just made in our discussion and final changes by the city attorney, Farley's 6.05 addition to the charter.
Second.
Okay, can we take a vote?
Member Smith?
Yes.
Sorry. Member Riker?
Yes.
Member Fugilier?
Yes.
Member Palmer?
Yes.
Member Rokier?
Yes.
Member Poole?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes?
Member Rashadat?
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen?
Yes.
All right, Carrie, you got to do a good job now. Can I say something about what Jess said earlier? By the way, Jess Romero this was sort of his idea to include this, and I want to thank him for that. Thank you, Jess. Also, you know, you did mention that there are sections of this charter that we did not discuss. You know, I know that all of us have read every single word of this inside and out, and I think that if there were any changes or any thoughts from this group that would have come, that we thought that we needed to discuss, we would have brought it up. So, and I really appreciate you saying that because it's very important. I know to everyone that we cover the entire thing. So, thanks.
Yeah, and I would agree. I've read this thing so many times now. I think all of us would have come up with something to add, and we did add things that were in the area, so I would agree. And I would like the public participation to know that I think we all heard them and that we all listened to what they had to say.
There was another thing that was brought up, as long as we're having this discussion while Carrie's working, and that was that to make sure that the comprehensive plan and the LDRs reflect the changes that we've made. That's something that's going to have to be reviewed. It's important.
Where did we put that?
Yeah, and I actually addressed that in those two.
You did, that's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Where did you address that?
In my 6.0 section.
While we're waiting for the last language to be tweaked, I believe we've concluded everything that we wanted to discuss and vote on. However, there are questions of next steps, and I know Carrie will be able to kind of share either by past experiences or her expectations, or maybe a legal guess on what next steps would be in.
So what I had planned to do is on this July 8th meeting, if this is the last meeting of the charter review, to have under the city attorney's section an update on the charter review committee stating you've had your last meeting. Here are here's the proposed language and changes that are being presented to the city commission. Next steps, commission, please direct us. Is it a public workshop? Give us dates so we can set that up. Is it the recommendation here is a special election. Let the commission decide if it's special or general. Depending on that decision would dictate when the ordinances would move forward. I am anticipating at this point it would be 6 different ballot questions. One regarding the primary, if you win it in the primary, 51%. 2, the mayoral term. 3, the clerk amendments. 4, salary of commission. 5, the historic preservation. And 6 being the arts. And so essentially, I'm basically tee it up to the commission to say, okay, what's the direction to staff? And so then if it's, they will have to, when her report is done, accept the report of the facilitator, probably have a workshop, discuss it. There would have to be, once the ballot questions are settled, there would be a website on the city page with simple facts answering questions. But that's the way I see it. We're not dictating the timeline. This will be presented to the commission with your recommendations, and they will dictate the timeline.
Will the members of this group be present at the workshop? Is that something that we will do, or how's that work?
So the workshop, I would imagine, would be led by the facilitator or the commission. We'd have to look at the implications of the Sunshine Law, because if we say you all are disbanded as of the date you terminated, then you all could get up and talk. But if you're still a review committee at the time of the public workshop, then one of you would have to speak on behalf of the group. So that's something we would have to tweak depending on, how we wanted to handle that. But I would recommend that tonight you all should probably appoint a lead person who may assist the facilitator in the presentation, or, depending on what that looks like, having somebody to represent you all from this committee.
I think that's an excellent idea. Currently, we do have a chair. He's not here tonight, and I'm the assistant chair. So I think we do have representation that could present, if needed, to the city commission or workshop or whatever's required.
So do you want to use the chair, the existing chair?
Yes, unless he can't attend, then unless.
Okay,
unless
and consensus
somebody else-
of the board? Going to see some head nods?
Yeah,
Majority? Yeah.
I think my recommendation is either the chair or the vice chair.
Okay. If the chair is unavailable, we'll do the vice chair.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And they would work in conjunction with the facilitator, is that?
Correct.
So
You
they
know,
would
it may
work-
be, depending on, you would work with the chair and you would work out whether the chair wanted to present or you wanted to present. Like, you guys could work together, maybe do half and half, or
Or perhaps the chair and the
Leave
vice
it
chair
flexible.
could assist in that if needed.
that would depend on the sunshine law, so it would have to be
Sunshine law,
one.
you got- Yeah,
Okay, chair.
one and
Carrie,
one.
the workshop's not a done deal. You're saying that the
Commission would direct
decide
us.
if they want to proceed with that.
Correct. So I anticipate that it would have one set, but we need that direction before he can actually set it. And they could tell us what time frame they want it. If they end up going with the general election, you know, it can be later in the year or however they want to decide, or multiple workshops.
Sure.
So it's flexible.
All right, is there any other business for the committee?
Yeah, I think we talked about to see if there is any item that was suggested by the public participation. I can't think of any item. You said you have an item that we did not discuss?
I had one that was brought up one or two times, but I think it's a misunderstanding. You used the term charter officers, and they used the term limits for charter officers. Charter officers have contracts. They're not elected, so the term, we didn't discuss that, but I don't think there's any need to discuss it because it doesn't apply.
Correct. There are new term limits every 2 weeks, or upon special meeting, your charter officer can be terminated. So if you gave them term limits, you'd actually be giving them a guaranteed contract, whereas right now, it's not guaranteed. Every 2 weeks, it can change.
But I think that was just a misunderstanding of who it was, because it came up during the discussions with the city clerk.
Thanks for clarifying that. Dan?
Yeah, I think the only comment that I've heard repeatedly that we really haven't addressed too much is, you know, why is the mayor's role different than everybody else? Right, and it was brought up tonight, why is the mayor's compensation more? You know, if it's just a commission member with one vote. So I think we've talked about it a little bit, but, you know, not entirety. And another part of that would be, as you look at commission meetings on the dais, you know, the mayor always votes last. And is there a possibility for a rotating vote and how that occurs? I mean, that's just things that I've heard people bring up.
You know, we had quite a bit of discussion on this specific topic. I think what I was referring that the mayor is equal to the commission in terms of power. Now, there's other duties to the mayor that probably the commission doesn't have. For example, chairing the city commission meeting. That's the mayor's or the vice mayor. Or if both of them are gone, then you have one of the other commissioners who does that. You know, and so it's a more ceremonial position to the mayor. And so that's why probably in terms of the compensation, you know, he gets paid more because he goes out to quite a bit of events and so forth. But I was referring to in terms of the power, that it's actually the mayor is equal to the commission. Now, whether he votes last or he votes first, what is that going to make a difference? What does it make a difference?
You can.
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference because the mayor then sees how everybody else votes. Then
Okay.
they can direct their vote accordingly as if it's already a 3-to-1 majority. You know, so I think that does make a difference.
I think it puts him in a tough position, to be honest with you. Because if it's a 2-2 and then the mayor is going to decide, I mean, that's not an easy one.
So if we've got 5 equal commissioners that all have an equal vote, why wouldn't we rotate that voting process around? What's the harm in doing that?
Because he's the one who's running the meeting.
When we vote on something in a dais here, it rotates in terms of who votes first, right? So that nobody has that fear of always being the first one to go.
But
First or last.
at the end of our vote here, even though we are rotating, the chair gets called last.
Right, so the mayor voting last, is that etched someplace within our charter or within an ordinance, or is that just the way it's always been done?
And now, the difference is, the mayor does not make a motion. Now, he could make a motion, And when he makes a motion, then he would not vote last.
Yes. He has to pass the gavel.
So normally, the mayor does not make a motion. The mayor looks for a motion from the dais.
I think in our discussion too, which we had on the issue of why the difference in compensation, and Cal did a good job. He went through a lot of the things because the city manager goes with the mayor to a lot of events. And I know from reading the city reports on the web, from talking to commissioners and all, the mayor is constantly in motion somewhere representing the city. To more of a degree than, while commissioners do some things too, the mayor does more of it. And if you look at the mayor and then you move up to the county chair, and then I don't know how it works up at the Senate and the House in Florida, but I know at the county level, those chairs or presidents earn more money than the rest do, for the same reasons.
They do. But that would be my explanation on why the mayor vote last. And I think it's a tough position for the mayor to vote last, to be honest with you. It puts him in an awkward position sometimes, especially if it's a divided issue. So.
Dan, I was going to say that if the suggestion is that possibly the mayor may have more power by voting last, then another commissioner also might sway the vote the same way that the mayor would. So I don't see, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like another commissioner may have, if this were the implication, another commissioner may have an agenda or something to sway the vote, would be exactly the same as the mayor, right? In that position by voting last?
Well, not if it was random. If it changed.
Well,
up
I
every
get
time
that.
they hit a
Yeah, I
vote,
get that.
Then you don't have anybody that has to go first and the other
Mm-hmm.
people vote according to that, or goes
Yeah.
last with the swing vote. So that was a suggestion that I've heard, and I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, no, I get that. Random.
I think I have some language for you all to kick around if you'd like that.
Yes.
Okay, section 6.05, Arts and Culture. The City of New Smyrna Beach, to preserve and enhance the quality of life for its citizens and visitors, shall continue its commitment to arts and cultural endeavors by A, prioritizing public art, community arts, and cultural events. B, providing guidance and information related to grant opportunities and other potential funding resources for arts and cultural activities. C, to the extent possible, preserving existing art and cultural events in the city while encouraging the addition of new events in the city.
Excellent.
That sounds great.
Perfect.
Yeah, looks good.
I
Sounds
like
good.
it.
That's fine.
Do we need to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the language just read by the city attorney for 6.05.
Second.
Second.
Member Poole?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Rashadat?
Yes.
Member Palmer?
Yes.
Member Riker?
Yes.
Member Fugile?
Yes.
Member Rokier?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen?
Yes. So,
City
So-
attorney has nothing else to bring up. I do not either.
okay.
Unless I'll make it up if you'd like me to, but
No, I think we're probably good. All right, well, then this concludes our evening tonight. I think we did a great job, and we worked hard, and we had difference of opinions, but we found a way to get to where we needed to go, and I thought it was, I think every time we met, it just got a little bit better. So I want to thank this entire committee for the time and effort that they spent, not just here, but at home, reading documents and going to the city website and then talking to the citizens. I know I've talked to a few people that's asked questions, so I want to thank everybody, and what I'd like to do is conclude the meeting at...
wait. I want to say one thing.
Okay.
I would like to thank the committee as well. You all were one of the most behaved groups I've worked with.
Behaved.
Behaved, and, well, yes, because sometimes, people have a difference of opinion, and they're not willing to listen to everybody's difference of opinion and then come to a consensus. I think you all work very nicely together, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Susan. I want to thank everybody too, because we did have a little bit of contentious discussion on some things, but I get the feeling that everybody had the same idea here, that we do have a very unique place, and that the decisions that were made for the charter moving forward, I think were progressive and non-restrictive. And I think everyone did a great job, so thank you all.
I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank Susan in particular for putting up with us. But I think it's healthy that we have different opinions, and so I think initially people thought that this committee has the same view, and I think it was obvious to the second meeting or the third meeting that it's not. So I really do appreciate the different views, and I respect them, and I value them. Thank you.
I'd like to add my compliments to everybody on the commission and appreciate the citizens coming in and making comments too. I think it worked well. I think we made some good changes, and I think we moved the city forward, which is what it was all about.
I totally agree, Palmer.
Great. All right, thank you very much. We're going to conclude the meeting. 7:18.